with the competent leadership of its previous presidents, Dr. Ernesto V. Botin, Dr. Rochelier D. Dadivas, and Dr. Editha L. Magallanes. Presently, Dr. Editha C. Alfon, a woman whose intuitive leadership, dedication to public service, and compassion holds the helm and has led many Capizeños to fulfill their dreams through quality education and further brought the university in the global and national communities to become known as the country's top winner in the 20th Gawad Kalasag, an award given to units and institutions for exemplifying excellence in disaster risk reduction and management and humanitarian assistance. Capsu has 3 campuses and 6 satellite colleges strategically dotting the highlands and shores of Capiz. The 3 campuses are Capsu Burias in Mambusaw, Capsu Pontevedra in the town of Pontevedra, and Capsu Rojas City Main Campus in the heart of the city of Rojas. The satellite colleges are aptly named to represent the town where they operate. Tapas Satellite College, Mambusaw Satellite College, Sigma Satellite College, Dumaraw Satellite College, Pilar Satellite College, and Dayao Satellite College. The course offerings of the university were conceptualized considering the unique geography of the province of Capiz, the typology of its people, as well as the demands for internationalization to provide the necessary workforce that would bring this country to the arena of global competition and sustained economic growth, while at the same time honoring the unique culture of the people. Through the years, Capiz State University has produced globally competitive graduates in the fields of engineering, teacher education and educational management, agriculture and fisheries, criminology, computer education, hospitality management, food technology, hotel and restaurant management, economics, veterinary medicine, entrepreneurship, architecture, administration, and industrial education. Being committed to academic excellence and delivering quality service to all, the university offers the following to its clientele: state-of-the-art facilities, conducive and effective academic environment, viable, sustainable, and relevant programs, projects, and activities, strong linkages, inclusive community, fertile ground for the development of sports, culture, and the arts. The university also boasts of its outstanding innovations in the field of instruction, research, extension, and production. The more evident proof of the university's success is the testimony of achievement of its graduates. Capsu is proud to be instrumental in the success of its alumni. Capiz State University, a state-owned higher education institution in the province of Capiz. The university for the Capizeños. The university for the world.
Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta merupakan perguruan tinggi swasta yang berdiri pertama kali dengan nama Institut Pertanian Wangsa Manggala Indonesia, yang kemudian menjadi Universitas Wangsa Manggala di tahun 1986. Kemudian berubah nama menjadi Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta pada tahun 2008. Visi yang ingin dicapai adalah menjadi universitas yang memiliki komitmen untuk mewujudkan kemajuan dan kesejahteraan masyarakat sesuai dengan cita-cita yang tertanam dalam semboyan Angudi Mulyaneng Bongso, The Pursuit of Excellence. Dalam perkembangannya, Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta telah mendapat kepercayaan masyarakat. Lebih dari 10.000 mahasiswa telah menuntut ilmu di Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta untuk membuktikan diri menjadi generasi yang unggul bagi bangsa. Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta memiliki 3 kampus yang diperuntukkan dalam menunjang kebutuhan kegiatan belajar dan mengajar. Pengajaran di Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta dilaksanakan dan dikelola oleh fakultas dan program studi pada jenjang sarjana dan pasca sarjana, meliputi Fakultas Psikologi, Fakultas Agroindustri, Fakultas Ekonomi, Fakultas Teknologi Informasi, Fakultas Ilmu Komunikasi dan Multimedia, Fakultas Keguruan dan Ilmu Pendidikan, dan pasca sarjana. Guna menunjang sasaran universitas dengan beragam pilihan fakultas dan program studi yang terakreditasi di Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta juga didukung oleh sarana dan prasarana untuk pengembangan diri dalam mencapai tujuan akademis dan minat bakat mahasiswa. Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta berusaha terus mengembangkan diri menjadi universitas yang memiliki keunggulan dalam bidang pendidikan dan penalaran, serta penelitian dan pengabdian masyarakat, baik di tingkat nasional maupun internasional. Sebagai cita-cita untuk mencerdaskan bangsa sehingga membantu masyarakat mewujudkan kesejahteraannya.
Masih intro pa lang yung kaya.
Capiz State University, with its aim to go global, has forged partnerships for academic collaboration with international learning institutions through the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization programs. This partnership includes Universitas Mercubuana Yogyakarta, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, Universitas Ahmad Dahlan, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and Nakhon Si Thammarat Rajabhat University, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Thailand. As the world faces the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, teachers begin to embrace the overwhelming changes in the educational landscape. They are challenged to increase and strengthen their technical knowledge and pedagogical competencies to successfully effect relevant learning despite the unexpected circumstances. With this, Capiz State University, in collaboration with its partner university, Universitas Mercubuana Yogyakarta of Indonesia, invites you to the realization of one of its internationalization activities, a webinar series with the theme Sailing Through Global Teaching Approaches During COVID-19 Pandemic and Beyond. This weekly webinar commences on December 17, 2020 and will run through until February 4, 2021 with both universities' top-notch faculty as resource speakers. We are inviting everyone to watch it live via YouTube and Facebook account of Capiz State University.
Capiz, a province in Western Visayas located in the northeastern part of the Panay Island, dubbed as the seafood capital of the Philippines with its 80-kilometer coastline and the wide expanse of fish ponds. This is the home of Capiz State University, the only state university in the province of Capiz that had evolved through a merger between Mambusaw Agricultural Technical College in Burias, Mambusaw, and Capiz Agricultural and Fisheries School in Bailan, Pontevedra in 1980 to become Panay State Polytechnic College. In 1998, Capiz Institute of Technology in Rojas City became an integral part of the PSPC system. Eventually, in 2000, Sigma College of Science and Technology in Sigma joined PSPC and contributed to its fundamental growth. Finally, in 2004, Republic Act No. 9273 officially converted Panay State Polytechnic College to Capiz State University. And after 15 years of committed service, the university is now proudly bearing the seal of quality of ISO certification 9001-2015. Capiz State University is truly what she is now today, with the competent leadership of its previous presidents, Dr. Ernesto V. Botin, Dr. Rochelier D. Dadivas, and Dr. Editha L. Magallanes. Presently, Dr. Editha C. Alfon, a woman whose intuitive leadership, dedication to public service, and compassion holds the helm and has led many Capizeños to fulfill their dreams through quality education and further brought the university in the global and national communities to become known as the country's top winner in the 20th Gawad Kalasag, an award given to units and institutions for exemplifying excellence in disaster risk reduction and management and humanitarian assistance. CAPSU has 3 campuses and 6 satellite colleges strategically dotting the highlands and shores of Capiz. The 3 campuses are CAPSU Burias in Mambusaw, CAPSU Pontevedra in the town of Pontevedra, and CAPSU Rojas City main campus in the heart of the city of Rojas. The satellite colleges are aptly named to represent the town where they operate. Tapas Satellite College, Mambusao Satellite College, Sigma Satellite College, Dumaraw Satellite College, Pilar Satellite College, and Dayao Satellite College. The course offerings of the university were conceptualized considering the unique geography of the province of Capiz, the typology of its people, as well as the demands for internationalization to provide the necessary workforce that would bring this country to the arena of global competition and sustained economic growth, while at the same time honoring the unique culture of the people. Through the years, Capiz State University has produced globally competitive graduates in the fields of engineering, teacher education and educational management, agriculture and fisheries, criminology, computer education, hospitality management, food technology, hotel and restaurant management, economics, veterinary medicine, entrepreneurship, architecture, administration, and industrial education. Being committed to academic excellence and delivering quality service to all, the university offers the following to its clientele: state-of-the-art facilities, conducive and effective academic environment, viable, sustainable, and relevant programs, projects, and activities, strong linkages, inclusive community, fertile ground for the development of sports, culture, and the arts. The university also boasts of its outstanding innovations in the field of instruction, research, extension, and production. The more evident proof of the university's success is the testimony of achievement of its graduates. Capsu is proud to be instrumental in the success of its alumni. Capiz State University, a state-owned higher education institution in the province of Capiz. The university for the Capizeños. The university for the world.
The world is facing significant challenges in addressing the immediate and long-term effects of the pandemic in our education system. However, our commitment to quality education provides us all with a sense of hope. In this aspect, teachers are frontliners too, and this pandemic affirms more than ever our ingenuity as teachers, our commitment to education, and our dedication to our students. To our colleagues from the different campuses of Capiz State University, maayong aga. To our friends from Indonesia, salamat pagi. To everyone, good morning and welcome to the International Webinar Series program of Capiz State University and the Universitas Mercu Buena Yogyakarta with the theme Sailing Through Global Teaching Approaches for Teachers during COVID-19 and beyond. And to start, let us pause as we invoke the presence of an almighty being amidst us in a prayer. And this will be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem and the Indonesian National Anthem.
Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We are truly grateful. Thank you for giving us the opportunity for allowing us to meet and share our knowledge and time with one another. Be extend your divine wisdom to the speakers of this activity so that they would be able to impart effectively their God given knowledge. May they be blessed as they continue to bring their expertise to the people who need them. Bless the participants as well so that they will be able to gather the vital information from this activity. May you bestow your blessings after this event so that we may go out and spread what we learned in the spirit of your love and generosity. May we realize that this activity should glorify your name. Amen.
And now, please welcome Dr. Mary Ann B. Martelino, Vice President for External Affairs and Linkages of Capiz State University, for her opening remarks.
Dr. Adimeto, Director of the University of Mercobuana, Yogyakarta, Dr. Editha C. Alfon, Teachers Training and Education of UMBY, other key officials, faculty and staff of both universities, the Capiz State University and the University of Mercobuana, Yogyakarta, participants, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The advent of the coronavirus pandemic is having a rapid and wide-reaching impact in the worldwide higher education institutions. The first aspect of higher education affected by COVID-19 has been its internationalization program and activities. As this pandemic exploded globally since it started last March, the weeks that followed were a blur for most of the internationalization programs and activities of higher education institutions. The COVID-19 pandemic has indeed brought about enormous hindrance to the internationalization activities and programs of higher education institutions. With the current crisis, there is a need that universities like CAPSU or Capiz State University and the University of Mercobuana Yogyakarta can adopt measures for the continuity of its internationalization program and activities. The most practical and realistic continuity plan is a sustainable post-COVID internationalization effort that will need to embrace the potential of remote digital learning. To address the problem on its continuity during this very uncertain time, the internationalization programs and activities of universities should be moved online. Universities will be implementing more flexible mobility formats for its internationalization programs, like the conduct of webinars. I consider the conduct of this 5-week webinar series, which commences today until February 4, 2021, as one of the greatest achievements of the university so far, talking about its internationalization activities and programs after the onslaught of the coronavirus pandemic. This program stretched me to my boundaries and challenged me to work beyond my comfort zone. And like anything that forces me to test my limits, this program brought me profound joy and satisfaction. It is through this activity that Capiz State University is privileged to showcase its top-notch faculty and expose our community to the international arena. I must admit, the preliminary arrangement we had to make entailed a great deal of pressures, but it was all worth it in the end. The linkages that we have established with the University of Mercobuana Yogyakarta and the relationships we have forged are invaluable and will leave an indelible mark in the university's history. I hope and pray that the conduct of this webinar series is just a beginning of more collaborative activities between Capiz State University and the University of Mercobuana Yogyakarta. Thank you and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary Ann B. Martilino, the Vice President for External Affairs and Linkages of Capiz State University. This webinar series is an academic collaboration forged between the Capiz State University here in the Philippines and the Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta in Indonesia in order to promote quality education and strengthen partnerships amidst this challenging time. And now, please welcome Dr. Editha Alfon, President of Capiz State University, for her message.
Thank you, Professor Joey Balatayo, Dr. Alimato Zara of Universitas of Mercu Buana, Yogyakarta, other university officials, presenters, webinar participants, a pleasant morning. The pandemic highlighted the significance of blended learning among educational landscape. The prolonged face-to-face class suspension has brought unprecedented challenges to universities here and abroad. This urges educators to realize the great importance of utilizing blended learning in this time of pandemic, which causes a paradigm shift from normal to new normal. I am happy that Capiz State University, through the effort of our Vice President for External Affairs and Linkages and the Universitas of Mercu Buana Yogyakarta, Indonesia, through their coordinator, take the initiative of organizing a series of webinars with the theme Sail Through Global Teaching Approaches for Teachers during the COVID-19 and beyond, which allows educators from the two different countries with definite culture to share their best teaching practices to continuously equip the future generations and make learning and teaching more meaningful and effective. With this educational endeavor, we look forward to learning from the experiences of our local and international educators, for we know that successful implementation of blended learning requires collaborations among interconnected group of players outside the classroom. With this, I wish to welcome everyone in this concerted effort of this university and the Universitas of Mercu Buana Yogyakarta. As mentioned by our Vice President for External Affairs and Linkages, may this virtual endeavor would not be the first and last, but the start of more collaborative exertion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Editha C. Alfon, President of Capiz State University. And to deliver a message live through Zoom from Indonesia, please welcome the Rector of the University of Mercu Buana Yogyakarta, Dr. Alimatus Sara.
Thank you. Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our national and international college and dear guests, good morning. First of all, let us thank Allah, the Almighty, for blessing and guiding us into the right path and for granting all means and opportunity together here to attend these very meaningful occasions. On behalf of the Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to first webinar seminar with the theme Sail Through Global Teaching Approaches during COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. In the first place, I would like to offer our very warm welcome to the Capiz State University, CAPS-SU, Presidents Editha C. Alphonse, PhD, and the Vice Presidents for External Affairs and Linkages, Dr. Marianne D. Martellino. It's an honor to be here and have the opportunity to talk about the topic in an international gathering like this one, because it is a topic that becoming increasingly important in education during this COVID-19 pandemic. We would also like to extend our gratitude, especially to Mr. Luis Placido Lasica, PhD, from Capiz State University, Philippines, and Mr. Heribertus Pinawan, SPD, MPD, from Universitas Mercubuana Yogyakarta, Indonesia, who have accepted our invitation to become the keynote speakers of today's webinar. I'm very grateful to the webinar organizing committee from University International Affairs and Linkage of Cambridge State University and English Education Study Program, Faculty of Teaching, Training and Education of Mercubuana Yogyakarta University for their tremendous support and have provided so that this webinar series could be organized. As we know that this webinar series, which will be organized and scheduled once in a month in February until February 2021. Hopefully, we would be an event which is inspiring as well as what joining event. Ladies and gentlemen, across the globe, in this VUCA, that stand for violent, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situations, people are looking for ways to increase the quality of education. Various observation, exploratory, and experimental study has been done by experts coming from different fields of study. In addition, virtual conference and scientific discussion which focus on finding out a solution for these difficult times are becoming a new way of collaboration today. That educations are working together to investigate a new theory and strategy to face a so-called new normal situation. This attempt was intended to create a better learning environment, more student-friendly delivery system, and enhance quality of distance education becoming important point this time. Reflecting to all the things that have happened in the past 12 months during the coronavirus outbreak, we finally learned some important points. First, this pandemic time have encouraged us to try new methods, distant language learning and teaching, such as learning, high flag learning, flipped classroom, and so on. Second, both student and teacher have to make them familiar with learning management system, online learning assessment tool, and individual approaches that are used to engage students in learning. Third, knowing that there is no one size fit all approach. Hence, mutual collaborations among educators is highly needed. And that's why we are here to collect as many as ideas we can use to cope with the difficult moment. At last, we may consider this is a blessing in disguise situation in which, despite of this hard time, but I'm sure we all also find some lesson here. I'm hoping so much that through the collaborations among Universitas Mercubuana Yogyakarta and also Kapit State University Philippines would nurture not only warm friendship and constructive partnership between UMBY and campus, yeah, but also bring new hope and impact to our educational system, not only for Malaysia, Philippines, but also for the world. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, allow me, on behalf of Universitas Mercubuana Yogyakarta, to close my address. I wish you all an educational and fruitful webinar. Together, we can pass this through. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alimato Sara, Rector of the Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta. At this time, I shall be reading the house rules for this webinar. The registration link could only be accessed through the link provided by the UMBY. This session will have 2 speakers and there will be 1 moderator. During the webinar, participants may turn off their webcam. The participants are also requested to mute their microphones. However, during the question and answer section, the host will deactivate the participant's microphone. Each speaker will have 25 minutes to deliver his or her thoughts. The question and answer section will begin after all the presenters finish their talk. Participants are supposed to join the webinar from the beginning until the end of the section. Only those who fill in the exit ticket at the end of the webinar will get the e-certificate. In this event, both moderator and presenters will use English language. All participants could give questions to the presenters through the chat box, though we will also invite you to give your questions using the microphone once you are recognized. The presentation slides from the presenters will be shared before the event ends. Once again, we would like to reiterate to the participants, please mute your microphone during the duration of the webinar. In this series of webinars, which starts today until February, we will be learning how our schools transform crises into opportunities, and in the process, enable teachers and members of the academic community to devise ways and means to deliver quality instruction to our students in spite of the pandemic and despite the digital challenges. Our first speaker will deliver his talk entitled Teaching Vocabulary in English as a Foreign Language Classes for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Students using the social media. He is a founder of Semesta Edukasi. He finished his master's degree of teaching education from Sharjah Nawiyata Tamansizwa University in 2014. He has attended various international conferences where he presented researches related to English language. His interests in research include inclusive education, learning styles, and English for specific purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our first speaker, Mr. Heribertos Binawan.
Thank you, moderator, for the extraordinary welcome to me. And today I would like to share my story actually. It's just a story that I need to share to you all about one of my research or my study. And the title is actually that, let me set first. Please wait for a moment. Okay. So good mornings to you all, dear friends from Philippines, from Indonesia, from Kapsu universities, and also from Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta. Good morning, and how are you today? How's life going? I hope you are in a healthy uh, and in a good condition. Okay, so the story begins. The title of my study is the DH8 students, deaf and hard of hearing students' perception towards the use of social media to improve their vocabulary mastery. And I'm a member of English Education Study Program, Faculty of Teacher, Training and Education, University of Mercu Buana Yogyakarta, Indonesia. You can reach me by email or mobile. It was started with this COVID-19 pandemic situation. People work from home. Students, they study from home. It creates challenge in education, including the deaf and hard of hearing students' learning process. So start from now, I would like to say DHH for deaf and hard of hearing students. DHH students, they are students with the hearing impairment. Deaf means almost zero, no noise, no voice that they can catch. While the hard of hearing, they can still hear the noise or a little bit of voice also. In Indonesia, the DH8 students, they have options whether they can go to the special schools or SLB, Sekolah Luar Biasa, or to the inclusive schools. Inclusive schools is actually regular schools, but they have trained the teachers, they have modified the structures, the building, that they are more accessible for those children or students with the disabilities. So inclusive schools is actually regular schools, but they have to fulfill some things or some requirements. The first is that they have to create a conducive environment for children with disabilities. And then they have to provide inclusive teachers as educators. So they provide training, government provide training for the teachers. And other facilities such as building structure, science, spatial access, pathways and rooms, and etc. So once again, inclusive schools are actually general schools, but they are open and inviting, including the DH8 students to come and to share the knowledge with similar methods that the teacher will share to the students. Similar methods to the DH8 students and also to the regular students, hearing students. So DHS and hearing students. vocabulary. We know that vocabulary and grammar actually is the basic requirements, I would say, that supports the four language learning skills. We know that listening and then speaking and then reading and writing, the four language learning skills will be well supported by this vocabulary. And Nagy in 1997 said, acquiring new words through visual material is the most plausible way for DHS children to build their vocabulary during school years. Okay, now learning styles. The normal for us are regular students, usually hearing people, I would say, hearing people, they have three types of learning styles, such as visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and DHS student is actually visual. In their daily communications, they usually prefer to have lips reading rather than using gesture or sign language. Why? The reason is very simple, that the sign language is actually varies. So it depends on the person. They can say money, something like this for money, or money for this sign. So it's a little bit complicated to use the sign language or gestures. That's why they prefer to have the lips reading. Now, friends, from Philippines and from Indonesia, would you please try to scan this code, or you can also, my friend will help me also to share these links to the chat box, and we will check it later. We will check it later, the result. This is a Mentimeter, small activity, okay? And this is from We Are Social data that in Indonesia, most active social media platforms, number one, you can see here, YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Line, etc. And we will try later to match with the Mentimeter results that you have scanned, or you can also get the links from the chat box. Now, social media. According to Blom and Chan and Triggers and some other researchers, social media can improve DHS students' performance when used in blended learning environments. And in this study, we will try to use in e-learning environment. Social media can be used for Indonesian curriculum because the inclusive schools actually they follow the national curriculum 2013, and it is more explorative curriculum. And social media also applicable for visual learner because of the videos and pictures, and also for social distancing during this pandemic situation and vocabulary. Start with I start the study with this procedure, and started also with two research questions. Number one is how social media assist DHS students to understand new English words and idioms. And then number two, what are DHS students' positive and negative experiences while they were engaged in social media? So you can see the steps that we applied. The first is using WhatsApp for introductions and greetings. And then the students will read the text, short text, and then there will be assignment using Google Form, and then a little bit short reviews conducted by the teachers. And then they will share also some videos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So it's a combination. So in some meetings, they use only YouTube and Instagram. Sometimes they use only videos on Facebook, etc. So it's not at once with these three types of social media. And at the end, after they explore with the social media, they will try to review their answers on the assignment. And this is student response, how social media assists THS students to understand new English words. Okay, WhatsApp almost never. It means that WhatsApp almost didn't assist the students to understand new English words in WhatsApp. Why? Because they only use WhatsApp for instructions. And then YouTube helped the students to provide videos from many sources with English subtitle. Some of the videos provide script also. Facebook, many short videos, and this is sometimes real show videos with the English subtitle. That's the response from the students. Fun videos with some information and caption on the video, and then from Instagram, more English expression and idioms available because they provide the pictures and they can slide to the right, to the left, some of the pictures with some expressions and idioms on that pictures. Google Form, almost never because they only use Google Form for the assignment. Okay, this is the end. And before I end my presentation, I would like to share the result of our Mentimeter result. Okay, this is the result. Thank you for the participants. You are very active helping me and to create these small activities. Very good. Based on the result, I hope you can see my screen clearly. The YouTube 27%, Facebook 36%. This is interesting because based on the students' response, also Facebook is more usable. They browse and use Facebook more than YouTube. Okay, this is interesting. And then Instagram 9%, WhatsApp 5%, Google Form 23%. Okay, good. So at least we have similarities in YouTube and Facebook. Thank you. So this is the social media that we usually use. I think this is the end of my story today, and I hope you can catch my words clearly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Heriberto Spinawan. We would like to inform our participants that if you have questions to our speaker, you may do so after the second speaker's talk because we are going to combine all the questions in a question and answer section of the program. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Heriberto Binawan. Our second speaker will deliver his talk entitled Mentoring in a Pandemic, the role of language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment. Our speaker is an associate professor of Capiz State University Ponte Vedra campus. He graduated as Doctor of Philosophy in Development Communication with concentration in Educational and Science Communication, with cognate in Strategic Planning and Public Policy from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. At present, he is a director for Social Science and Industrial Technology Research and Development Center of Capiz State University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our second speaker, Dr. Louis Placido Lachica.
Thank you very much, Dr. Balatayo, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, especially to our colleagues at Capiz State University and to our counterparts in Indonesia, especially to the faculty of the Universitas Mercu Buana, Yogyakarta. Okay, so today I will be sharing our humble output as part of our informal conversations, actually, with my graduate students in the Master of Arts in English. During the pandemic, we tried to contemplate, we tried to ponder and reflect on what will happen, not only to language teachers, but to teachers in general. How do we cope with these new challenges? Because whether we like it or not, we are all affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. And so, let me share you about mentoring in a pandemic, the role of language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment. The coronavirus disease 2019, or the COVID-19, is a global pandemic according to the World Health Organization, and its threats caused the emergence of the so-called new normal. The COVID-19 pandemic is first and foremost a health crisis. Many countries have decided to close schools, colleges, and universities. Teaching is moving online. Student assessments are also moving online, with a lot of trial and error and uncertainty for everyone. And that is according to Burgess and Servicen in 2020. In the Philippines, modifications to prevent the disruption of classes were attempted. Teachers were expected to adapt into this setup. Their roles might have shifted from the conventional to the unconventional ones. Paradigm shifts in the teaching learning environment were observed. The COVID-19 pandemic may also be seen as a threat to the educational system. However, teachers are at the front lines ensuring that the teaching learning process never stops. But the bigger question right now is, how do language teachers perform their roles amidst the threats of a global health crisis? And so we ask these research questions. What are the roles of language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment? How do language teachers describe a new normal teaching learning environment? What are the challenges encountered by the language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment? What are the lessons learned by the language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment? What are the perceived impacts of the new normal teaching learning environment to the language teachers? And what are the practices of the language teachers to ensure an effective new normal teaching learning environment? And so with this study, we anchored it on the following epistemological and theoretical perspectives: interpretivism, communication theory of identity by Heck, and the hermeneutic theory of interpretation by Paul Ricoeur. So we try to employ the descriptive qualitative inquiry as our research design, leaning on narrative research and using Ricoeur's hermeneutic analysis for our data analysis. So there were actually 20 language teachers who were involved in this study. They are teaching in the elementary, junior high school, senior high school, and college levels in the province of Capiz, Philippines, from April 18 to November 28, 2020. We gathered the data by briefing the participants first and foremost. We elicited data transcripts online, and we conducted informal interviews online. To ensure the trustworthiness of the findings of the inquiry, we employed peer review, reflexivity, and iteration. And for the data analysis, of course, again, we employed Ricoeur's hermeneutic analysis and the in vivo coding technique by Saldana in 2009. The hermeneutic analysis would involve the culling of recurring themes, coding, and memoing. So here are the results of the study. As to the roles of language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment, these themes emerged: that language teachers would educate people, they use the power to influence, they embody a 21st century teacher, and they encourage students. These are the data transcripts coming from several of our participants. Educates people. People misled by false beliefs do more harm than good to society. Education helps people question, analyze, and reject irrationalities. Uses the power to influence. Teachers may develop the ability to have a positive impact on others for them to be engaged in forming informed solutions to the pressing problems. Embodies a 21st century teacher. The 21st century teacher is able to look at their practice and adapt based on the needs of their students. Encourages students. Fostering student encouragement or motivation is a difficult but necessary aspect of teaching. The participants have identified their roles as language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment. Changes in their roles prior and during the pandemic may likewise be inferred. And according to OECD, in 2020, technology does not just change methods of teaching and learning. It can also elevate the role of teachers from imparting received knowledge towards working as co-creators of knowledge, as coaches, as mentors, and as evaluators. Results are in consonance to the findings of Ibona in 2020 that in the new normal education, the key roles of teachers were to cultivate students' motivation, play as a team player, and act as innovator of change. Now, as to the views of language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment, these are the themes: quite challenging and demanding. Classroom environment has evolved. It is not as hard as it seems. My bedroom is the new classroom, and it is not conducive, but it offers safety. Quite challenging and demanding. The job of a teacher is demanding and challenging, much more so in the new normal context. So these are the data transcripts. Classroom environment has evolved. The COVID-19 pandemic has shaped and reshaped the classrooms, especially within the educational system. It is not as hard as it seems. Transitioning from the normal to the new normal may overwhelm teachers at first, but once adjustments were done, everything may be bearable. My bedroom is the new classroom. Teaching has extended its reach outside the conventional classrooms due to the pandemic that classes were held anytime and anywhere at your own pace. It is not conducive, but it offers safety. New normal classes may deprive teachers and students with the comforts of a regular class. However, a safe teaching learning environment may be experienced. Views on the new normal teaching learning environment may depend on the acceptance of language teachers to embrace the pendulum swing from the convenient classroom setup than that outside of their comfort zones. And another report of OECD in 2020 confirmed that as to teachers' preparedness to support digital learning, 60% of teachers from around the world received professional development in information and communication technology. Remote learning became a lifeline for education, but the opportunities that digital technologies offer go well beyond a stopgap solution during a crisis. Digital technology offers entirely new answers to the question of what people learn, how they learn, and where and when they learn. Technology can enable teachers and students to access specialized materials well beyond textbooks, in multiple formats, and in ways that can bridge time and space. As to the challenges encountered by the language teachers in a new normal TL environment, these were the challenges: learning delivery, budget allocation for materials, technical difficulties, social interaction, and the development of suitable instructional materials. Learning delivery. In the new normal teaching learning environment, teachers, of course, may experience some challenges as to learning delivery modalities, whether it's online or modular. Budget allocation for materials. Due to the pandemic, priorities of the government may have resulted to changes in the provision of equity for funding. And this is not only true for third world countries, but also to all countries all over the world. Technical difficulties. Of course, the internet connectivity is a perennial problem in most parts of the country, which may hamper the effectiveness of online classes. Social interaction. The quality of social interaction may have been affected by the absence of face-to-face classes. Development of suitable instructional materials. The drastic shift of the usual learning delivery modalities in the new normal raised the concern of developing suitable instructional materials. The challenges encountered by the teachers in the context of the new normal TL environment, along with the various factors, may affect the online and modular classes in a way that were not experienced previously during face-to-face classes before the new normal. In a feature story of Manila Bulletin just this year on teachers' paradigm shift in the new normal, it was revealed that conduct of classes, internet use, shift in evaluating students' learning, and managing virtual classroom behavior were some of the challenges for teachers in the new normal. Now, as to the lessons learned by language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment, here's what they have learned: to be resilient, work under pressure, to be patient and be passionate, to make the best out of the resources present, to be considerate, and to be open to changes. To be adaptable, resilient, to work under pressure, be patient, and be passionate. These traits, worthy of emulation, served as a drive to teachers to truly embrace their profession. Make the best out of the resources present. Effectively accepting, and dealing with unconventional situations may have allowed teachers to deal well with the new normal TL environment. Be considerate. In the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, educational institutions and educational regulating agencies have encouraged teachers to be considerate to their students about academic concerns given the difficulties of the current situation. Be open to changes. Change is the new normal. Adaptability is important since the pandemic caused massive changes in various aspects of life. From the narratives of the participants, the lessons they have learned in a new normal teaching learning environment may serve as their guide to strengthen their strong will, grit, and passion to ensure that amidst a global health pandemic, effort to make things work out will be done. According to Moscano, navigating the intersections of the physical and digital spheres of life, the new normal is calling to develop essential skills that can help teachers to adapt and thrive in an uncertain future. One thing that the pandemic has taught and reminded teachers is to have the skills of flexibility, acceptability, and empathy to face the unknown. As to the perceived impacts of the new normal teaching learning environment to language teachers, here's what they say. Coping with the changes, opened new possibilities and opportunities, adept in the utilization of educational technology, teaching capability is being challenged, and the pandemic is a reminder to be considerate to students. Coping with the changes, language teachers have to acknowledge that things are changing. Otherwise, they will spend a great deal of effort trying to avoid changes. Opened new possibilities and opportunities. The ingenuity of Filipinos to be pliant by rising from adversities gave them hope for better days. Adept in the utilization of educational technology. The 21st century teachers are those who can adapt to technological changes in the society. Teaching capability is being challenged. The language teacher's capability to handle classes in the new normal at times could be a well-fought uphill battle. The pandemic is a reminder to be considerate to students. The new normal setup raised the openness of language teachers to embrace diversity and inclusivity in the classroom. I would like especially to read this part of the data transcripts. According to participant 15, this new normal made me realize that there are numerous factors to be considered in delivering the lessons to the students. This pandemic reminds us to be considerate to our students. With the alarming suicidal cases because of what is happening right now, it impacted me in a way that it became my reminder that whenever I give paperworks and other educational activities to my students, I must consider different factors. These factors are the ability of the students to accomplish the given task, the availability of resources in their homes, and the feasibility of the task in this pandemic. The participants may have anticipated the possible advantages and disadvantages of handling classes in a new normal teaching learning environment. This may allow them to develop a sense of discernment on how to adjust and come up with contingency initiatives on personal and professional levels under the new normal conditions. Flores in Sweden in 2020 claimed that the reality resulting from the COVID-19 crisis raises questions about the nature of teaching and ways of supporting the learning of students. But it also challenges teacher education to rethink ways of re-educating teachers for scenarios that are unpredictable and unknown, but which raise questions related to equity and social justice. As to the practices of language teachers to ensure an effective new normal teaching learning environment, here are their practices. Awareness of the students' needs and the situations, collaboration and cooperation, proper monitoring, giving students various activities and proper etiquette. Awareness of students' needs and the situations. Teachers are expected to increase their awareness of their students' needs to help them enhance the atmosphere of a new normal teaching learning environment. Collaboration and cooperation. Engaging in collaboration and cooperation in a new normal teaching learning environment may allow opportunities that will benefit both students and teachers. Design engaging instructional materials. The challenges posed by the pandemic awaken teachers to look into the aspect of designing instructional materials which were deemed appropriately engaging. Proper monitoring. Looking into the efficiency and effectiveness of the new normal teaching learning environment, teachers believe that proper monitoring must be done. Giving students various activities. Students deserve a teaching learning environment which breaks the monotony of limited learning activities, much more so in the new normal context. Proper etiquette. When not addressed, proper classroom decorum could be very challenging in a new normal teaching learning environment. Both students and teachers may set and follow established ground rules to prevent classroom management related issues to propel. The practices to ensure an effective new normal teaching learning environment imply that language teachers have realizations which shape their practices, which they felt may address concerns in the present situation. McClevey and Gorgian in 2020 identified several key themes and recommendations for best practice in teaching in the new normal learning context. The general principles of effective pedagogy remain valid, but remote learning presents additional challenges. Teaching presence is hugely significant in remote learning. Teaching engagement with vulnerable and disadvantaged students should be a key priority. Effective remote pedagogy needs to encourage cognitive development. Governments can assist in the curation of learning resources, and technology can drive student engagement in the immediate term and enhance pedagogy in the longer term. We conclude that the identification and description of roles of language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment reflect their awareness of performing multifaceted tasks, which may allow them to assess and reassess possible changes on their roles prior and during the pandemic. The views of language teachers of a new normal teaching learning environment allow them to contemplate on the present setup in contrast to what they were used to deal with before the pandemic. As such, their willingness to embrace changes by fostering creative ways in the performance of their roles may lead to better teaching learning experiences. The challenges encountered by the language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment range from instructional, technological, financial, and communicative aspects. Failure to properly address these concerns may lead to the continuous glitches and possible emergence of additional problems. Lessons learned by the language teachers in a new normal teaching learning environment serve as a guide in their respective classrooms. The COVID-19 pandemic experiences shaped and reshaped their constructs of education for the time being and in the future. The perceived impacts of the new normal teaching learning environment to the language teachers signify insightful realities of handling classes in pandemic times that, when properly dealt with, may create educational advancements. The practices of language teachers to ensure an effective teaching learning environment echo their voices on what they believe are essentially applicable to their new normal classrooms in the context of the current global health crisis. We also would like to recommend that knowledge sharing on the roles of language teachers, their views, challenges encountered, lessons learned, perceived impacts, and best practices in a new normal teaching learning environment may be highlighted by proposing a training design for a webinar aiming to enhance personal and professional capabilities of language teachers. Multiple stakeholders, including the academe, may consider the results of the study in framing novel initiatives and schemes to ensure the effectiveness of a new normal teaching learning environment. Educational institutions in all levels with the regulatory educational agencies may revisit existing policies and guidelines to further improve their learning continuity plan, learning delivery modalities, contingency plan, strategic plan, communication plan, among others. And results from the study and in the proposed webinar may serve as a substantial baseline data in conducting the quantitative phase of the study. I guess that's the end of my talk. Madamo gid nga salamat. Maraming salamat po. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Louis Placido Lachica. This time, we shall entertain questions from our participants to our two speakers this morning. Participants, you may type your questions in the chat box so that I can be able to regulate the asking of the questions to our speakers. Or if you have the microphone, you can also ask directly your questions. But please introduce your name and the campus or the school where you come from. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Hazel Joaquin from Capital State University. This question is addressed to Mr. Heribertos Binawan. Sir, I am very much interested in your topic. It is well presented, but I just would like to know if you have teaching vocabulary practices there in Indonesia that you could share to the teachers here in the Philippines, especially those who are teaching the SPED, so that it could help their deaf and hard hearing students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shall I answer directly or? Shall I answer the questions directly or should I wait?
Yes, yes, sir. You may answer the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Hazel, nice to meet you here. And this is a very good time for us to share that. So this is the story. When we were dealing with the DHA students before, and at that time, this year actually my first time doing the research for the DHA students. And we started to learn that actually they are visual learners indeed. So that's why, based on the story of the teachers, this is very interesting that the DHH students in inclusive schools mean regular, just the regular schools, but they have some more accessible facilities and special teachers to conduct and deliver materials for the DHH. Based on the teacher's story that the DHH student, they prefer to have a natural way of teaching to the students. So they don't want to be really special students in the classroom. They just need a clear view so that they can see the teacher's lips moving clearly, without any exaggeration in the lips movement. So they tend to be, they prefer to have a natural way of speaking. And usually we use text first, and then after text, we also use some videos on the social medias and some pictures also. And for your information, that actually in Indonesia, before the DH8 students, they register to the inclusive schools or regular schools, a test was applied. So that's why the sample in this research, the students, their English is upper intermediate. And actually, the vocabulary that they have is enough or more than enough. So that's why when we conduct this e-learning process, actually, uh, when they read the text, there's no problem. When the teacher asks any difficult words or any some new words that you don't understand, they said, no, I'm okay. But the interesting thing here is that after they are exploring with the social medias, videos and pictures, they can review their own answers on the text, on the assignment. And in that case, the students find the new words after the exploration. So the new words and new idioms, new expression is not coming from the teacher, but from the videos and pictures from the social media. So this is the information that I can share to you. Is it answering your questions or not?
Thank you so much, Mr. Binawan. Yes, it answers my questions. And thank you very much for sharing your ideas with us. So we learned two things from you. This will be very helpful to our teachers here in the Philippines, especially those who are handling the SPED classes. So we have learned from you that the best practices that you have there are like using or teaching in a natural way, like the movements of the lips, and then using videos. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your
You're welcome.
ideas with us. Nice meeting you.
Nice to
Thank
meet you
you.
also, Dr. Hazel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hazel Joaquin. We have another question coming from Dr. Ian Arcega. This one is directed to Dr. Louis Lachica. Sir, what can you say to those who question that researches anchored on COVID-19 are obsolete and overstudied?
Sorry, sir. Pardon, I can't hear.
There's a question here, sir. What can you say that to those who question that researches anchored on COVID-19 are obsolete and overstudied?
Okay, I got that. Of course, we do respect the perspectives of a lot of people about it because COVID-19 right now is a hype, whether we admit it or not. But then again, as I have read from Alexander Pope, that little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Right now, in these trying times, we need research-based information. And all of us are first timers for this COVID-19 pandemic, whether we are in the educational sector or in the different sectors of the society, we all need research-based information for us to be guided. We can only be empowered, we can only be emancipated if we are backed up with research-based information. And that from there, we have to have informed solutions. We have to have informed decisions. From there also, we'll have access, power, and control over the safety of our lives. So just keep on studying whatever topics it is, whether it's COVID-19 or what, as long as it's research-based information.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lachica. We have another question coming from Daniel of the UMBY. This one is also directed to Dr. Lachica. Sir, would you please share some ideas that can be used to enhance students' engagement and teachers' presence during the online learning? Once again, this one is for Dr. Lachika. Sir, would you please share some ideas that can be used to enhance students' engagement and teachers' presence during the online learning?
Okay. Thank you for that question. So all of us actually are again first timers in this pandemic. But based on what we have experienced, not only in the Philippines but perhaps in different parts of the world, so we may increase student teachers engagement, other than taking into consideration, for example, problems on internet connectivity. But I think it must come to a consensus between and among teachers and also students that we have to consider their accessibility to internet and all others. So whether it's online or whether it's modular, I think the important thing is that there should come a consensus between students and teachers. We have to consider the preparation of our teachers also. We have to consider also the preparedness of our students and how we adapt to it. But personally for me, we can increase student engagement by looking on especially into the most essential learning outcomes and competences of our teachers, looking into not to cover everything, but the most essential ones. Whether if there is a lack of virtual presence or there's lack of physical presence, for example, I think it is important that everything should be well planned before we come up with the implementation. It all starts with proper implementation so that we can ensure that somehow everything that we're doing, all the tasks would be smooth sailing.
Thank you so much, sir. We have another question. This is directed to any of the two speakers, um, to both speakers. What do you think is the most challenging role you have as a language professor in this abrupt shift from in-person to online learning? Once again, what do you think is the most challenging role you have as a language professor in this abrupt shift from in-person to online learning? The question is from Professor Malu Vasquez of Capital State University. The two speakers are enjoined to answer the question. Starting
Dr.
with
Luis,
Sir
maybe Dr. Luis will answer first.
Dr. La Chica, you are being requested to answer first.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead, sir.
okay, okay, we can answer together. So, okay, this is a simple.
Can we request the participants to please mute your microphone?
Okay, thank you. This is, it looks like very simple questions, but actually this is really challenging me. Not really easy for me to answer. The most challenging role from this abrupt shift from personal meeting to online meetings. Uh, Let me share my story once again. What happened when my classes at the very first time dealing with this pandemic. Fortunately, in Mercubuana, Yogyakarta, we are accustomed to this type of e-learning process for at least once or twice in a year for one class. So that I feel personally that it's okay. It's okay. I'm fine. I can handle this. But what happened to my friends outside that they are not accustomed to this e-learning process? This is really shocking. How to handle my students, hundreds of my students, how to deliver this material, how to conduct laboratory work, how to conduct the speaking, how. But then after a while, after maybe after 1 month, we we were forced to study and to dig more information about the online learning. And then finally, we got better with this situation. The first, to me, the most challenging to handle with this situation or this suddenly shifting situation is how to keep ourselves calm down, not to be panicked, and how to how to challenge ourselves to handle with the technology, to handle with something new, to handle with something new, new situations. This is to me the most challenging because the media platforms, there are many abundance. To me is how to push myself to let myself learn and try something new. That's the most challenging to me. Thank you. How about you, Dr. Lachika?
Thank you so much, Mr. Binawan. It's Dr. Lachika's time to answer the question.
Thank you for giving me time to at least reflect. It's a very simple question indeed, but it's very philosophical. So I might have time to come up with rigorous answers for this. Thank you for that question. I think that's a question of Professor Vasquez from one of our colleagues, one of our faculty members in one of the campuses. Personally, for me, the greatest challenge is the resistance. Personally, there are certain times that I do have that resistance towards online learning. I'm not really a digital nomad. I'm not really part of the lower side of the digital divide, as they call it. But there are really times that I do have that negative attitude towards online classes. That's the major challenge for me. Not because I don't have the access, but I do think of my students. I have experience, especially in most of my classes, especially technical, most of the so-called, some English teachers would call it boring classes, technical writing, journalism, literature is of course interesting. But basically in my technical writing and journalism, both in the undergraduate and graduate levels, it's very challenging because I am, for the past 14 years, in my young years of teaching experience, I'm used to the language experience approach. Usually I would require my students to go into the field, to explore. But right now we cannot do it because of quarantine measures, because of social distancing, and most of them are underage, below 18. So they will not be allowed to go into the field to gather news information, to come up with academic exercises. So that's it. My resistance, I do have that personal resistance, not for myself, but because I do think of my students. Another thing is, of course, interaction. So it's very difficult to talk to faces that are not moving. I just talk to the photos. Sometimes when you send messages to your students, for example, in your Google Classroom, in the Messenger, or in all platforms, maybe one or two would reply. The rest are just sinners. They just look into the material, for example, without any response. Even if you try to convince them, you try to persuade them to please reply. Oh, especially in the Google Classroom, you have to give your comments. Otherwise, the dean, the program coordinator will be sneaking into the Google Classroom because that's part of their monitoring measures. And they will find out that you're not responding to me. What will they think? Maybe the class is not active, or otherwise, they will have creative imagination, for example, on what is happening into this classroom. Why is it so flat? Why is it so boring? Nobody is interacting. So that's it. Social interaction, classroom communication. I'm very interested in classroom communication. And so interaction is a challenge also. Another one is the attention span. No? Attention span of our students. Of course, it's very difficult also to engage students in a face-to-face class, much more so in online and modular classes. Okay, and the deadlines, of course. Humans as we are, we do have uh, a personal side of life other than our professional side of life. And so sometimes when you are piled up with deadlines, but again, it's all just about a matter of time management. It's all just about reminding yourself about why you get involved into teaching. So it's a subtle reminder for us that no matter what these challenges are, we really have no other choices but to face it and to stand tall amidst this global pandemic. I think that's more than enough.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lachika. We have another question here coming from a Master of Arts student. With the possibility of going back to face-to-face classes in the year 2021, would the new normal approaches discussed in the webinar still serve their purpose even after the pandemic? Let me repeat the question. With the possibility of going back to face-to-face classes in 2021, would the new normal approaches that were discussed in the webinar still serve their purpose even after the pandemic? Any of the two speakers may answer the question.
Okay, I'm trying to give response to this. So in my research, this is actually coming from some theories that found in some studies. Uh, they have, what is that? The study says that actually for the DHN students, social media would be helpful for the DHN students, which is who are visual learners in blended classes. So at the study itself, it was before the pandemic situation, before the pandemic situation. And this pandemic situation is actually just a little bit improving the theories and the studies that have been done before. So I would say to the question, this question that yes, it is still serving. It is still serving that social media still gives some beneficial to the DHN students even after this pandemic situation, of course. And we will see. I'm not sure. I cannot prove it yet, but let's see. Let's see. And let's conduct the next research on it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Binawan.
Let me say this. This COVID-19 pandemic is preparing us for the future. Of course, we cannot predict the future, but we have to go into the unknown, into the unconventional ways. Otherwise, we have to go back to the Stone Age. So this pandemic is preparing us for the future. All of us, we are aiming for a future-proof university, for a future-proof educational system. It's quite ideal, as you may hear it, but I believe that later on, with the gradual changes in the society, we can aim for it. Whether you're an elementary pupil, you're part of the special needs, children with special needs, you're a graduate student, you're an education student, or whatever fields of endeavor you're in, I believe that these practices that we have right now in the new normal will eventually prepare us to the future, whatever and regardless are the circumstances.
Thank you, Dr. Lachika. We have a comment here from Professor Vasquez. Perhaps everyone will agree that we all share the same challenges and sentiments. Thank you for your answers, Sir Heriberto Binawan and Sir Louis Placido Lachika. Thank you so much, Mama Lu, for sharing your comment to us. This time we shall have, if we have, do we have questions coming from the participants before we proceed to our closing part? Because we still have instructions for the exit. Do we have questions from the participants? If there is none, At this time, we shall be hearing concluding remarks coming from our two presenters this morning. And we have first Dr. Louis Placido La Chica.
Okay, give me 3 seconds to think of final word. This is unrehearsed. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Office of the Vice President for External Affairs and Linkages of Capiz State University, headed by Dr. Mary Ann B. Martelino, for inviting us for this webinar. Thank you, ma'am, for allowing us to share our humbling experiences during this COVID-19 pandemic. Also to the administration of Capiz State University, headed by our University President, Dr. Edith C. Alfon, and the rest of the faculty and officials of the whole CAPSU system. And of course, thank you also to our counterparts in Universitas Mercubuana Yogyakarta in Indonesia for being with us this morning. Again, whether we admit it or not, we are all affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, whether it's the professional or the personal aspect of your life. Much more so right now in the educational sector. So it's like we're crossing a thin line between thinking of our safety and performing our duties all at the same time. We don't have choices right now. We don't have a lot of choices, but one of the choices probably that we have right now is to embrace change. No? We have no other choices but to cope with the challenges that are being thrown to us by COVID-19 pandemic. And again, it is important for us to do away with misinformation. So we have to back ourselves up with research-based information so that we are properly guided on what we do and so that we can discern what is authentic from not, what is factual from just mere assumptions or just mere speculations. So when we are equipped with all these things, I believe that with this COVID-19 pandemic, somehow we will eventually survive. I have personally experienced being doubted as a COVID-19 positive and at the same time juggling your task, performing your task as a professional teacher. And I guess it is still important that you have to keep your focus. In the part of the educational sector, I believe that as teachers, we should and will have to be always open to changes. Again, the keywords are learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. La Chica. And we have the concluding statement from Mr. Heribertos Binawan.
Thank you. I do appreciate this forum to all dear friends from UMBY, Mercubuana Yogyakarta, and also Tapsu University in the Philippines. And I do appreciate to Dr. Hazel also that gives me a good question, and Professor Vasquez that also uh, gives us some challenging questions. Uh, I do believe that this pandemic situation is giving me a lesson learned as a teacher or as educators. It gives us hope that we can handle this, we can survive, and whatever will happen in the future, we believe that we can do better and we can handle the situation. Don't be panic. We just need time for a little bit learning about the situation, and then we will survive. Uh, so hopefully that this pandemic situation that have brought us into this very nice and warm forum will also contribute to anyone, people in this world, to spread hope that we can survive, we can have better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Binawan. Once again, we would like to extend our gratitude to our two presenters this morning, Mr. Heribertos Binawan and Dr. Louis Placido Lachica. As much as we want to accommodate all the questions that are being passed on here, we don't have the luxury of time, so we suggest those who are asking questions to reserve them for our next batch of seminars, which are scheduled on January 14, 2021, January 21, 2021, January 28, and February 4 in the series of webinars sponsored by in partnership Capital State University in partnership with the Universidad Mercu Buana Yogyakarta. Um, this time we would like to inform the participants that after this, the UMBY will be sending out the exit ticket in your respective email addresses. We would like to inform you that those who registered in the webinar shall be receiving an e-certificate, provided that you respond to the e-ticket that will be sent to you by 2 o'clock this afternoon Philippine time, or 1 p.m. At 1 p.m. for Indonesian time. Yes, ma'am. Once again, we would like to inform that the exit ticket, you have to accomplish it before 2 p.m. this afternoon, or 2 p.m. For Philippine time, and 1 p.m. for Indonesian time. After you have accomplished the exit ticket that is being sent to your email addresses, the UMBY will be sending out their e-certificates. The PowerPoint link is available also in the chat box, which the host has already included here in the chat box. You may click it so that you will be able to avail of the soft copy of the speaker's presentations. So once again, this is the first of the international webinar series program between Capital State University and the University Mercu Buena Yogyakarta, with the theme Sailing Through Global Teaching Approaches for Teachers During COVID-19 and Beyond. We shall see you on January 14 for the second webinar. We would like to thank again our speakers, and thank you our participants for being with us this morning. Season's greetings, everyone, and have a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chui. Balatayu.
Thank you, sir. We would like to request the host to end the meeting for all of us. You may also scan the barcode that is being presented here in the screen for the exit ticket. Please accomplish it and send it back before 2 o'clock this afternoon for the Philippine time, and 1 o'clock for Indonesian time. So this ends this morning's first webinar. Thank you so much.
Kain ka siguro to si kasamang dami to. Pupan niyo sila.
No?
Kasamang dami.
Ano nga?